Public Safety meeting of June 14th to order. I am here. Councilmember Watson is here in place of Councilmember Baldwin, and Councilmember Fullerton is out, and we do not have a replacement for her. We'll start off with report and presentation with East Pierce Fire and Rescue, Chief Parkinson.
All right. Well, our stats begin on page 3, and I'm looking at the pages, and they've got about 4 different numbers referencing. So if I get lost, or if you get lost, I apologize. So again, starting on page 3, Station 111 is your Bonney Lake station. You'll see that it reports as far as its slightly down year to date. Probably a bit of an anomaly out by the time. Second graph below just shows response times across the entire district. Flipping to the next page, which is 4, it goes down as response times by first 2 areas. So they average at 6 minutes and then 90 seconds. Below that graph, 5-year trend showing an uptick overall of 0.87%. Which is a little lower than what we've seen at this point. Weather finally that. With it, down to page 5, incident counts by unit. And so the first 2 units on that top chart are Engine 111, Medic 111, so both the primary out of the Bonney Lake station. See that both of them are actually up year over year. And since the station is down year over year, that means that they're running some more incidents out of the first 2 area to help back up other stations. Graph underneath that just is the one that we present each month with updated numbers showing the different types of incidents, fire to EMS, hazmat, etc. Next page, which is page 6, zips through mutual aid given and received. Nothing of huge note there. Next page after that goes through transport, as well as response. So nothing horribly notable on stats other than just overall district-wide we're seeing a slight uptick, and like I said, Bonney Lake proper probably a bit of a downtick, but the units that are going out here are a little busier than past year. So just as far as general report, some good news is we are now out to bid on Station 111. So the new station across the street here is out to bid. It closes on July 7th, so that's an exciting step. Wildfire season, though it doesn't feel like it, is finally picking up across the West Coast. And so we've got a single resource that's been deployed now for 3 weeks. Do expect, or DNR expects, that by the first week of July that things are going to it seems nice to see that everything's green. Unfortunately, those things that are green happen to be the things that out the quickest. The question is going to be if we get a long dry spell with some wind in there, that might make things very interesting. Safer grant, which I had spoke about a few months back that we had applied for, that was 12 firefighters for a 3-year period through FEMA. We have not heard back other than to receive some requests for additional information. Looking at that as a good sign so far that they have not thrown our request in the garbage just yet. So hopefully that's a sign of good things to come. Went through our bond rating call for our sale of our second half of bonds late last week. Thank you, City, for letting us seal Jason Sullivan to talk through economic outlook for the city. That was very helpful. Hopefully we'll hear next week if we got an upgrade in our rating. At worst, we'll hold steady where we were, but I'm hoping for an upgrade from E. And just other items of note is that we're pretty much back to normal as far as our public education programs. So CPR and first aid training are now safe sitter program for our teenage kids to get involved in for take care of brothers and babysitter job. Helmets and life jackets are back for sale, and we've partnered with Red Cross to start installations of back in. So we're basically back to normal as far as all that goes. Yeah. Any other questions? That is all that I have.
Good, thank you so much. Tom,
Thank
do you
you.
have anything?
Is all your construction pretty well current then, for your buildings you're working on now?
We're getting, so the station up in Edgewood, which was our first one to kick off, it's delayed by steel. And so it'll fall a couple months. This facility, we're about 6 months behind. The next two that are in sequence.
At the one at Holly, are you left of the roundabout or right?
So if you know where Wesley Homes, the big huge retirement facility.
Yeah.
Just before you get to that, there's an open field and a water tower.
Oh,
there.
okay.
So that's the parcel.
Oh, okay.
You're more inside the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So eventually they'll let us drop down onto it.
Oh, okay.
So you're gonna close 214th then?
It will close and move we're under contract with the parcel that's on 120th. It'll be about halfway between 198th and 113th. So actually it'll back up it'll get into this area of the city a bit quicker, a smidge slower to get kind of this.
Cool. Very good, thank you.
Go on to item number 2, Bonney Lake Police Department monthly report. Chief Jeter.
Alrighty, and I will say, I think the Public Services Center was delayed due to steel as an STEAL.
Among other things.
Yeah. So anyhow, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, another busy month for us. Just some of the highlights here, you'll see under Karma on page 2 there, reporting party reported a male driver of a Tesla was flipping him off and doing circles around him in the Costco parking lot, attempting to ram his vehicle while officers located the Tesla and subsequently arrested the driver for DUI. So, knock that one up to Karma. Another one, a shoplifter, Fred Meyer, at the top of that page. Somebody tried to steal $1,800 worth of merchandise, and 3 citizens intervened and held him there till police got there. And Pierce County actually booked him into jail for theft second.
Awfully dangerous though, where things are these days.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we would not suggest that at all, but I think people are getting fed up with it too. They've had enough. Certainly would tell somebody to do that. But
You have a lot of calls to target them too. They're
Yeah,
pretty,
yeah. And our officers have been doing a great job of getting there quickly and thwarting a lot of these and getting at least the merchandise back. Same with Home
That's good.
Depot.
yeah.
So just got a call today from Kohl's. They would like to have tell them how we handle.
Oh, good.
I would imagine they will be a shoplifting. Also, I think I talked about this at the retreat with at Target, stolen vehicle in the parking lot, and the occupants shoplifted inside the store. Officers were able to catch them. Convicted sex offender, convicted felon gave his stolen firearm to his girlfriend to hold, and county would not book him, even though it came back. Convicted felon, registered sex offender, possession. He had narcotics package for resale, and I think that ticks all the boxes, but still the county jail would not take him. And then if you go to the last page, we're always a month behind in statistics. It's just the way the National Incident-Based Reporting System works. But if you'll look, aggravated assaults are up. Simple assaults are way up, almost double. Burglaries are almost 4 times what they were at this point last year. Thefts, which is larceny, have 10.5, so double or almost double. Motor vehicle thefts, just to give you a frame of reference, in the first 4 months of 2021, we had 1. First 4 months of this year, we've had 32. So there might be something going on there. Let's see, my detective skills are kicking in. 38 fraud compared to 17 at this time last year. 17 stolen property offenses versus 4 at this time last year. And 95 destruction of properties versus 34 at this time last year. 15 violation of contacts order versus 7 last year, 47 domestic violence offenses versus 18 last year. Oddly, our drug offenses are only 3 this year, where we had 18 last year. So, and 18 was low the year before.
Nancy Reagan.
Yeah, just say no. Yeah. Just say make it legal. And then motor vehicle collisions are up. Arrests are trending up a little bit, but still lower than what they have been. But then the calls for service have really exploded. We're running about 3,400 more at this point last year than we had last year, and still about 2,000 a month are calls for service, so about 66 a day last month. This was the lowest month in the first 4 months of the year. DUIs are also way up. We've got 18 this year, and we had 8 last year, and a lot of those are from motor vehicle collisions, but a lot of citizens are calling them in too, and our officers are able to. So there's the good news. There you have it.
And, you know, I know we have good state representation here, but I mean, clearly, someone's sharing this with everyone, right?
This is not an anomaly. This is not Bonney Lake
Right,
specific.
yeah,
Yes. And tomorrow I have a meeting for the state chiefs and sheriffs to talk about our legislative agenda. And my big push is going to be the Blake decision, the drugs, legalizing drugs. Everything is connected to that. The thefts, the burglaries, not stopping for police. All these things have a drug nexus. Since we've made it legal, there's no ramifications. So people just don't care. They know that the jails aren't going to hold them because of COVID. So, yes, there's going to be a loud cry from law enforcement this year about crime, and I'm hoping that the citizens will chime in as well. Like I said, the people at Fred Meyer, they're tired of this. They weren't victims, but they're tired of seeing this happen in their community. And so, yeah, I'm hopeful that this legislative session that we can make some meaningful change back towards law and order in this.
Thank you, Chief.
Nice.
Move on to item number 3, Emergency Management Monthly Report. Regine?
Thank you. So last month was the first month that I created a monthly report for y'all, so
Cool.
I wanted to join the cool club with you
I
guys.
was impressed.
And unfortunately, I couldn't be here last month. So just a kind of a rundown for y'all. This report, I do share it with our EOC team as well as with you. So it's kind of being sent out to a number of folks. So the first item that I have on here is related to the Lahar exercise, which was big news last month, but kind of as a follow-up this month. We did complete that exercise. We had 25,846 students participate in that exercise, which was the largest in the history of this country. So a huge thank you. Everybody in this room played a role in supporting that exercise. And it was phenomenal. Of the almost 26,000 students, more than half of them actually walked their evacuation routes. And so we had some that walked their routes, we had some that sheltered in place, like up here in Bonney Lake. So it was really a phenomenal exercise, and no injuries. I mean, we had great weather. Everybody did a fantastic job. It went off really without a hitch.
I saw pictures of the kids walking and stuff, so
Yep.
that's pretty impressive. I didn't think I'd see so many kids out there in groups.
And they were smiling,
Yeah.
and it was just well participated in. So for the group, there was just a reminder to participate in this after action survey that went out. So it is in here. So if you did have a role in the exercise or your staff did, please make sure that exercise or the survey. For those of you not aware, we did as part of the East Pierce Interlocal Coalition sign on with Unsolved's Code Red product. It will be rolled out here very shortly as Bonney Lake Alert, and it will be how we will notify our residents, businesses, whoever signs up for it, of emergency incidents in the city. And so we can call, text, email. It has TTY capability. And so forth. We have, so far, we've identified a group of 9 total senders that can send those messages. Some of them are here in the room. And we'll be going through a training. Actually, just today, I'm working with the gal, our contact with the agency, establish our training, and I believe it's going to be next week. So get that moving, and once we do, website will go live and folks can start registering for it. So there'll be more to come on this, but we can use it internally as well as externally. So we can use it to establish groups for our internal staff, to send messages, whether it's weather related or incident related, those external emergency. So I don't want to, get into everything on here because some of it's just kind of repeated. I will say that the East Pierce Interlocal Coalition is really just moving and shaking on a bunch of emergency management stuff. We're right here in the process of finishing reviewing the continuity of operations, continuity of government plans for this region. So those will hopefully be going ready for final review month is kind of our goal. Following that, we're kicking off comprehensive emergency management planning. So if you haven't done that yet, get ready, fasten your seatbelts. It's a lot of work, but it's literally the only plan we are legally required to have by the state. So it is coming.
Oh boy.
Yes, it is coming. We're also, so yesterday we participated together in the Cascadia Rising critical transportation workshop, basically. And then tomorrow is a mass care related, so sheltering related workshop that we're using that information to further some of this planning effort that we're doing as a regional group. So I think it's really fantastic. I've never seen this type of coordination in this area, and it's exciting for the work. Yeah, I mean, I think those are some of the highlights there. I did put some information in here for links with ICS training. I know it's been a while for some of our folks. So if you have not taken it, or if it's been more than 5 years, I'm recommending folks head on over to the links. So for those of you with staff, the links are in here. You can just share them. And there's some fun national information. So, any questions?
I had one.
Yes.
Can you drop the word county in Epic?
What's that?
Can you drop the word county in Epic?
That would only be Epi.
East
No,
Pierce.
it's East Pierce County Interlocal Coalition, so it's Epic. Yeah.
Where do you see that at?
The first C is silent. Well, it's Epic EM, but Epic is East Pierce County Interlocal Coalition. So it'd be EPCIC.
Oh, down below in the plan.
That's just my own.
That's a typo. Yes, I'm sorry. I will get rid of that.
Justin,
It's just, East Pierce Interlocal.
No, that was, just trying to.
So can you put some of these things that pertain to the city on the Facebook page? Like this wildfire preparedness and
Yes.
what else?
Yes.
Things that are able for everybody.
Yep, we are getting there.
Aware of this. Okay.
Absolutely, we are getting there. Sadie and I are actually in the process of updating the website as well. It's a bit outdated, so some of this information will go over there, as well as starting to get it onto the website or Facebook and Twitter as well.
Who's part of the coalition? Is this just the cities and the city employees, or is this like a external group as well?
It's just the cities. So
Okay.
the coalition, it's Bonney Lake, Sumner, Puyallup, Ording. I have to kind of do it in order. Black Lake, Carbonado, and then Wilkeson.
Okay.
We are having discussions right now. We've been approached by Edgewood and Fife, which were not included in the initial discussions in the development of Epic,
Okay.
but are wanting to join.
Okay.
So far, it's just those.
But nothing our citizens can get involved in, as far as like when the fire department went out for a bond type thing where you could have input on that.
So not in the actual coalition,
Okay.
but as we're doing all of the planning efforts, we actually have developed a timeline that includes many public events where the public will have an opportunity to provide input and review documents, review plans as they're being developed.
Okay.
One, because we have to do that, but two, we want to make sure the plans are inclusive and representing the communities.
Yeah. Great.
So.
Thank you.
If I go back to my email, are these links all live?
Yeah, I'm
On the
clicking
email?
on them now.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll do that. later.
And the Epic OC, that was, someone came and did a presentation on that. I think you brought someone in, Ryan?
Here's
Yeah,
some.
yeah. Because I remember the website. It looked, she showed us the website well.
Yep,
she did that.
epiceoc.com. You can actually, that's a public facing website. And so it will show if there's a power outage, it will automatically populate. So there are a number of different resources that auto feed onto that map.
Yeah,
And so PSE is just one example, but so if there's a power outage, it will automatically show on there with, kind of their outage map type information. Or if we have an incident, we can put it on that map. There's also an internal facing side of that, which is what we used during the Lahar evacuation exercise.
oh, okay.
So on the back side of it, we were logged in and we were actually able to track the schools. We could see real time how they were doing in their evacuation process. So we were counting down. I mean, in the EOC, we could see like once we hit 100% finished, or as it was going, the number of students was lowering. So we can do all of that from behind the scenes
great.
as well.
And kind of related to this, Chief, but when Tom and I went through the Citizens Academy, they showed us this backdoor website for school locations. That's not this, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
Does Fire have access to that as well?
Actually, I think that is no longer a thing. Trying to think of what replaced that.
Rapid responder.
I think that replaced it. Yeah, so the one that you're talking about, they do have the rapid responder access, but this one was county. Do you remember what that was called, Reggie?
It was rapid responder.
But we had something that was Pierce County only that was separate from Pierce responder.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know if the rapid responder, I heard that WASPIC wasn't getting funding for that. It was kind of going away.
That's it. So it was before it was actually something that was legally mandated that supplies a system like that. And in a couple of years ago, there was legislation that removed that requirement. So a lot of schools aren't even utilizing the systems any longer.
Maps and everything.
That's crazy
Yeah.
because it was so detailed when Ron was showing us.
Yeah, you can pull it up and find out.
Yeah,
layout of the
landing
school.
zones and pictures of inside the dugouts and all of that stuff. Wow. You'd think with and that led me to the next question on active shooter drills. Do you guys have drills like that for each school?
Not for each school. We have a response, and we haven't had it obviously. Funny you should say that because Ron Sasaki was a training sergeant job today.
Oh,
And
okay.
we've invited surrounding agencies. We haven't done it in a while, and that was one of the things I wanted. If I
Go ahead.
okay, I'm sure you probably heard there was a lockdown at Bonney Lake High School in Mountain View.
Yeah.
Last week, it was there was a gentleman. Evidently, he walks every day, and this is the first time anybody's ever called on him. Walking by the school with a handgun in his holster. So obviously, a week and a half after what happened in Texas, somebody called it in. Schools went into lockdown. The kids immediately started texting their parents. There's an active shooter. You have parents inundating. It was a mess.
Yeah.
But the officers did a great job of helping with the lockdown. We walked on foot, cleared the area, and just to make sure that this guy wasn't a threat. The officers and detectives did further checking and find out that somebody says, well, yeah, I think it was this one of the baristas from Rainier Valley Coffee says, yeah, I see that guy every day when I take my kids to school. He walks down to the 7-Eleven, buys a thing of crackers, and he feeds the birds on his way back. So our officers were waiting for him the next morning, and sure enough, he had no clue. They go, why would they be alarmed? Well, you're walking by a school with a handgun after a shooting just happened in Texas. I think they've convinced him to apply for a concealed carry permit.
Yeah.
Officers did a great job. How best to respond, realize how big of an area that got. I mean, all of us, there were 6 of us. Those 2 huge didn't step foot inside. We just cleared the perimeter. It took us a good long time to do. A couple officers on foot and a couple officers in the car, so in case it does come. The thought process always is to try to release the lockdown so you can quell the angst. Because we knew pretty quick that it was probably going to be bogus. The guy was walking away from the school, but there was a 10-minute delay, so nobody knows where this guy, did he circle back around? Did he go cross over to the high school? You don't want to overreact, but you don't want to underreact.
Yeah.
But now the complicating factor is because of what happened in Texas, parents were coming and they were going to take their kids out of the school, and
Had guns too, I
some
think.
of them were armed.
Yeah.
So trying to keep that, and again, when you got 6 officers, if there actually is a threat, trying to manage the parents, trying to manage the kids, trying to secure the perimeter so we can get a team in there. It's just all these layers now that's added to it because of what's happened.
Yeah.
So, but the officers did a great job. We had a fantastic debrief afterwards on what worked and what didn't, what resources could have used. We applied for a drone. It would have been great because it has the forward-looking infrared, the FLIR, so we could have flown the whole perimeter and looked for heat signatures in the wood lines, and would freed our officers up to do other things than be on foot and away from their vehicles. Yeah, lessons learned. Sorry, Richie.
No, I actually, that's a great segue because one of the loudest pieces of feedback we've gotten from the Lahar evacuation exercise was just that how excited and grateful everyone was to see that interaction between schools and emergency management, law enforcement, fire, public works, who also played a role, and just wanting to continue that partnership. And several of the districts have approached their local emergency managers wanting to talk about what their lockdown, shelter in place procedures are, what their reunification procedures are, and some of those other type documents. And so it's a good time to, just have that conversation. So
And the parents should have that information too,
Mhm.
just have know where
yeah,
to go.
the
what's
schools want to really
typical
flesh it
plan.
out and make
Right.
sure it's going to work, and then kind of go from there. So
I read all the comments on the Facebook post that the PD put out, and that, just like anything else on social media, just
I didn't because I didn't want to be mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's somebody direct messaged us on our communication was horrible, and so I responded. We had 6 officers. They were all trying to deal with the emergency. We didn't have time to update you. We felt that the safety of our students kept priority over notifying our citizens, and I'm sure this person did. School district was updating the families of children.
Yeah.
So
saw one because it went polar opposites, right? For
Yes.
like you said, there's an overreaction and underreaction, and
Yeah.
some were like, oh, now just the guys walking by, and now
yeah, we're gonna
we're in a
SWAT
school
team.
lockdown, yeah, and to the
Then,
overreaction.
then if you don't, something happens, then
Yeah.
we're gonna be criticized, and the school's gonna be not reacting,
Yeah.
keeping our children safe. They can't win.
No.
So I mean, I'd rather err on.
So what's your plan when someone does the same thing here, locks children in a classroom, lock
We're
them?
going in.
You're going
If
in.
I'm the one going first, we're not waiting for anything. I don't know what happened there, but that's
Right.
not how Bonney Lake Police would. Got one person, you're going in.
Everything.
Yeah,
And you would probably have a line of parents right on your back going, let's go.
yeah, there's no doubt about that, but I don't think we have to worry about that. That's what's expected of them.
Yeah.
Wait for a key.
That's
gonna
gonna
happen.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
So
All
it's
right.
been
Good
very
job.
busy. I can share all kinds of stuff, but those are the highlights.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the business and action items, AB 2281, ordinance D 2281, amending Bonney Lake Municipal Code relating to police department fees. Chief Jeter.
Thank you. Yes, in reviewing our fees, they have not been updated in quite some time. They're archaic. Basically stole from our neighbors, Puyallup, looked at what they're doing, made sense to us. The big one you're going to see is the body camera redaction. That takes some time to do. We're going live Thursday. Right now we've got 3 officers that are in a pilot project with the body cams, but everybody goes live starting on Thursday. So we've already had a couple
Excellent.
requests. How they get proficient, and even when they're proficient, you have to watch every second. If it's an hour-long video, it's going to take records clerk an hour to redact that, or go through it because you face performance on there, cover officers, and that. So that was a big thing, is to recoup some of the costs of our staff to redact that, and also to kind of head off anybody that just wants to go fishing and try to get as much body cam footage as they can,
Right.
just for whatever reason. We don't want to stop anybody who's got a legitimate reason. That's why we went for the body cams, is for transparency. But on the back end, we want to make sure that people are being responsible about the requests and not inundating our staff with requests that don't have. That's the biggest change, but we haven't typically charged for reports in the past, and we won't charge. It's not on here, but I've updated it, and I will send the updated to Sadie. General police incident reports, it should be that there's no charge if you're involved. If you're a victim of crime and you want a copy of your case report, we're not going to charge the victims. That was one piece that was missed in this, but it will be amended when I send it to Sadie.
Okay. And that was one you said wasn't in there initially, but my packet doesn't have that.
I know.
Yeah.
That's because I just updated it, because it was just found yesterday and I didn't have time to send it out. So it will be in the final 80 to go to the council agenda.
Okay. Because there was no fee, because you called out that there was no fee schedule in there. But John said it was in his hard copy.
I think I just saw the AV.
Oh, okay.
I didn't turn it over to page 2.
Yeah, the ordinance wasn't on there. It was just the AV was on there. And then the ordinance I sent, I corrected it. No charge for collision report if you.
When you redact the body cam ones, what do you do? Is that fuzzing it out, or blacking it out, or cutting it?
It's usually we blur it out.
Blur it out like you see on
and then
TV.
we can mute sections of it. So if there's sections of it.
Okay.
Is this soft? I mean, so you talk about a 1 hour video, but that's with one officer. When
Right,
you're
you've
on
got
a
4
DV,
officers there.
Yeah, that's
There's
3
gonna be
hours
4.
and 3 officers. Are you able to have time sync to where all the body cams are going at the same time? So if you're redacting one, you can click here on this camera, this one, or you have to go through and
Every single one, because they're different angles.
Right, yeah, but
Yeah,
it'd be
so
the same time frame anyway.
Right, and I mean, so you may not have to redact it here because of somebody, if an officer's looking over here and the person redacting is over here on ends, it's a lot of extra burden. And that's what we're going to wait and see. Didn't request any additional staff with this, and we're going to kind of goes for the first. And the plan would be is to use records clerk as our primary, possibly our. Felt there was some capacity.
Are you guys stopping at body cams, not dash cams?
Right now, it's just body.
Okay.
In the future, I would like to get dash cams. It gets you a whole different perspective, and it also gets back seat. Added perspective, and the officer can drive without having to activate. Although our cameras have automatic triggers for when you turn your lights on, it will make your camera come on. If you pull your firearm out of your holster, it activates everybody's camera. And same thing with taser.
Just all Bluetooth?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there firearms guys are installing sensors in all of our holsters. New tasers we got will have them in the holster. So of course, the officer pull it out. I got to turn them off.
Well, I watched the county officers in that hit and run, the guy where he in the BMW and then jumped on the motorcycle, and all of that stuff happened so fast. I mean, I watched it in real time, And from the collision to the shooting, we're talking like 5-6 minutes, and in a span of several miles in different vehicles. I mean, it looked like Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right. Well, thanks, Chief. Consent agenda, you okay with that,
I'm
Tom?
good with that.
Okay. Consent it is. Item number 2, AB 2286, interlocal with Bonney Lake and Sumner School District for an SRO.
Yes, thank you. This would just be to extend it for 1 year. We basically suspended it a year because of COVID. And Sumner had signed this agreement, and we thought we had, but we had not.
Okay.
When the school district looked into it, we had not. So this would just be giving us another year to keep us on the same cycle as Sumner. School district is very much interested in keeping the SRO program, as are we.
That's
It's been
good.
a very successful program, and Officer Wolfslager does an outstanding job. But they just want to basically roll the contract over for another year, and then next year we can look at any amendments, basically due to COVID.
Will he remain then, SRO?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I know that he would like to, and I haven't had anybody beat down the door to replace him. And once you get the right person in there, you don't want to.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if I CC'd you on it, but when he went out to all the schools after
Yes, you
Texas,
did.
yeah, that was,
Yeah.
I heard from several parents that they were relieved to see officers there at drop off. All right, we'll add, we're adding a third item here. Item 3 will
Consent,
become,
consent.
oh, consent, yeah. Item 3, the approval of minutes will bounce to item 4, and we'll move item 3 as AB 2294. This is an ordinance amending the municipal code and replacing chapter 9.2 due to a passage of ESHB 16300. We'll turn this over to Dina.
All right, thank you. The state legislature and governor signed the House Bill 1630, and basically it changes RCW 9.41.305. That's the section that impacts the city. So it applies to city, town, county, or other municipal buildings used in connection with meetings of the governing body of the city or town or other municipality, or any public meeting or hearing of the governing body of a city. That basically a person's not allowed to knowingly open carry a firearm or other weapon. This does not apply to the lawful concealed carry of a firearm by a person who has a valid concealed pistol license. So we're only talking about the open carry is not allowed under this new law, and the city is also required to post signs basically saying that. There are 2 exceptions, federal, state, or local law enforcement officers, and also armed forces or military. So as this applies to the city code, what I was proposing was to add, we have a whole list of all the criminal RCWs in section 9.01.010 of Bonney Lake Municipal Code. I wanted to add this RCW to it because if a person does violate it, the first offense is a misdemeanor. So just add that to our all the criminal RCWs that are just adopted. That's just the section of Bonney Lake Code that goes through all the different criminal related RCWs that the city adopts. The other section of code I was proposing to update is the section of code that in regarding courtroom security. I was proposing to mirror the language that's in this new RCW as it applies to the exceptions. So in our code, we word the law enforcement and military exceptions a little bit differently. I think for clarity, it would be good to mirror the same language. And then our section of code, chapter 9.12 of Bonney Lake Code, was the section of code that talked about guns and weapons in council chambers during council meetings. Because of the new RCW, we really don't have a need for that section of the code anymore. And so I was suggesting we repeal it. And since we're already, essentially adopting it in that 9.01.010, it's adopted as per there and it's state law now.
Do they define, excuse me, knowingly? Because I see it highlighted here.
I know there's an RC. You're talking about like versus accidental?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's not defined in this RCW, but I know I could find a legal definition of it. It's not defined in this RCW per se, but both in case law and in law, it basically is the like mens rea intent element.
and this includes nunchucks?
Yeah.
Napoleon Dynamite strolls into court.
That was a bow staff?
Oh, that's right, it's Kip. Nasty.
Yeah, the other one had a freaking 12 gauge. All right. Is this ready to go then on a consent agenda? This is as written is what is ready to go?
If you say it is,
Well,
I think it's ready to go.
Okay. No, okay, that's fine. I just wasn't sure if this was a draft and you were bringing us up to speed, or if this legislation here was ready to go.
I mean, I think it's ready to go.
Okay.
I know there were some questions, but hopefully I've
Yeah, I
answered
talked
them.
with you
Okay,
yesterday.
okay.
You answered all mine.
I know you had a question about. In case anybody had a question about the Second Amendment and limiting guns in certain locations, the DC versus Heller case, the Supreme Court specifically said that schools and government buildings, that the Second Amendment was not absolute and there could be reasonable restrictions in those two situations.
Do you have any issues with that, Tom?
No.
All right.
Makes sense
We
to
can put that on consent. Yeah, I talked to her yesterday because I had some real concerns about concealed versus openly, knowingly, openly. They are on my back. I didn't know.
That's why you avoid the metal detector when you walk in the house.
Yeah, so we can put this on the next consent agenda. We'll go to new item number 4, approval of minutes. I didn't see any changes.
Found one correction.
It's your committee.
I wasn't there, but I found the correction.
It was a pretty obvious one, actually.
Yeah, it
I mean,
was.
Right. We'll move on to open discussion. I don't have any. Tom, do you have any questions or concerns of public safety?
No.
I have a couple of.
Yeah.
About our vacant, we still have one vacant police officer. Part of the reason is salary pay off for vacation, trying to lower the impact on. So that sometimes. Where police department to apply for a cops hiring grant similar to Chief Parkinson. We've had 5 positions that would cops grant. The federal portion of it is $125,000 per officer, and and it has to be starts out and then decreases. Federal portion decreases at year 1 to year 3, and then year 4 they're all of ours. Haley just submitted that today, and it's quite a chore. Not holding my breath because I want to say they're giving out 200 awards United States wide. So I don't know that where Bonney Lake falls on the radar. I will say that Congresswoman Kim Schreier did write a letter of support for us, so I think that goes a long way. They tend to listen to those. So I know Haley put a lot of work into it, so we'll see what they have to say. The thought process would be to hire 2 in 23. Again, that would all be subject to council approval and making sure we have money to take them on. Other than the federal grant, honestly, $125,000 per cop over 3 years. Vehicle, salary, benefits, equipment, uniform, all that. It really is a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
I think that the federal portion over the 3 years, that do my quick WSU math, 5,000, and the city's portion would be, I want to say, closer to salary, benefits, and equipment. Something that
For 3?
for 5.
5? Oh, okay.
Yeah. 2 in 23, and then the remaining 3 in 24.
Oh, okay.
It would be the plan to phase them in.
Okay.
So again, that's something that cross that bridge when it happens. We'll take a look if we're successful in getting the grant. We should hear something during budget season this year, so hopefully by September we would know. So that way we can either say yes or no, or say one, anywhere from 1 to 5.
Rumor has it you'll ask for 4 officers on the budget coming up.
5.
5, yeah, okay. That would be helping to offset that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I'm also hopeful that the 0.1% sales tax that was proposed last year by our representative Stokesbury, that for whatever reason got shot down, even though it didn't cost anybody anything, state would lose their 1/10 portion from Bonney Lake would go to fund public safety, police officers, and I want to say that our portion would have been 1,000. It would have funded these positions.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that'll come back. But yes, I would like to see it, especially when I'm demonstrating the serious uptick in calls for service for officers and the severity level of the crimes too. A lot of these are 2-officer calls, and we're at about 1.4 officers per 1,000, and it's not the best metric to use, but most fully staffed departments are closer to that 1.8 to 2 officers per 1,000, and as you can see, we're not even close to that. As a state, we rank 51st out of 50 states for officers per 1,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and they said that even if they pass that 1/10 of 1% sales tax, it would keep us at 51st. It wouldn't even move the needle to get us closer to the national average of officers. So anyhow, that gives you a little bit of background on why we submitted for the grant, and felt it was a good idea to apply for that and try to at least get a little federal assistance to help us pay for a local need. Again, we should hear about that in September. They have noticed that the weather hasn't been all that great. So we've saved quite a bit of money by not having Pierce County Security out there, and it's looking like June 27th at the earliest. Right now, we've called them off again for this week, most of next week. But once the weather turns, obviously we're going to have them there. But Memorial Day,
Very good.
so they haven't even started. So again, substantial savings, but they will be there when the weather turns. The boat launch.
There was a problem with the boat launch, Justin and Toss. What was the problem? Yes, about the boat launch. Or maybe Dan did. Is there a problem with the floats down there?
Ryan sent me an email this morning that there's a broken bracket on the dock itself that they're repairing.
The last thing I have is the council approved a purchase of a generator for the public safety building out of the ARPA funds. And Ryan just firmed up the quote on that, and it's about 200 to 2.25 over what we had anticipated. So that will be coming back to Finance Committee, I think, on the 28th of June, once Ryan's able to firm up the quote. And we had another issue at the public safety building. The chiller, which is important, it's our air conditioner, is going out. Mike did a fix, a Band-Aid, to hopefully get us through the summer, but it was 2 weeks ago when it was 65, it was 80, 85 in our office. So clearly we want to get that fixed, but it's 30 years old, has never been replaced. The boiler was replaced 5 years ago-ish.
I remember that.
But the
Did
chiller,
something with that.
yeah, and it's the same thing. It's not cheap, and it's an old building, but that request will be coming to finance as well to replace the chiller. And Mike was going to get the quote yesterday, and I haven't heard from him. I don't know that the vendor has gotten back to him or not, but he was estimating $250,000. But again, we would ask that come out of the Rescue Act funding and not impact the general fund. If not, it needs to be done, so it needs to be part of the budget process.
Is that the whole building? Just your part?
Can we withhold fires?
You guys are
Yeah.
Can we withhold fires state or initial deposit?
We tried to do that. We tried to just put all the cool air on our side and give all the hot air to them. But
Well,
yeah,
you know,
Mike
their
said-
their lease extension is on the agenda tonight.
Oh, there you go.
Contingent upon.
Yeah.
So the money goes a long way on the side, you know.
Yeah.
And just on my soapbox here is we put some money in looking at upgrades to the public safety building. fire moves out. It definitely, we've outgrown that. And a lot of things have been delayed, like hey, we're gonna remodel when the fire moves out. That was 4 years ago. We had the money budgeted, but the can keeps kicked down further down the road, and things keep eroding in that building. And Band-Aid fixes at some point. We've got to stop and just do it the right way and put the investment. It's a 30-year-old building that hasn't had a lot of it.
You put together a plan for that building once they move out?
Well, that's what we want. We need somebody to walk us through that, like a consultant.
Yeah,
Part of the carpet.
So Chief, as I recall, we had a decision card last budget cycle to bring somebody in to do it.
It didn't get funded.
Right, yes.
Yeah. And that's what it was allegedly going to be part of the downtown plan, where they were going to fold it into that and have the consultant. Yeah, it would make sense to hire somebody that can do a space analysis and look what we have. Before Regine started, Ryan and I talked about it'd be great where their day room is for the fire department, kind of revamping that area to our EOC. So it's away from the public, and we can reconfigure it for an EOC and not a training room. Because what we have is a training room, and we have to kind of put things in a closet. If we had an EOC, we could keep things ready to go that are ready to deploy. But that's just one of the areas that would need to be looked at. But I mean, I'm not an expert. I can tell you what I think we need, but it would take somebody to be able to look at the space and say, okay, this is how we do it. That's what we need, and we need to have a plan. And clearly, we need to have a funding plan, because it's not going to be cheap. You're probably talking a few $1 million to touch that building and make the upgrades that it needs. I'm trying to see if John would put an office in the new building for me, but so far I haven't been able to talk him into it. Maybe the next camping trip I'll be able to cajole him. But anyhow, that's something with the budget coming up. I'd really like to see that public safety building. We have a plan for that. 1 year away, 2 years, whatever. So we have a plan. We have a design moving forward. So when Parkinson's building is built and they move out, we're ready to jump to the next phase and update the public safety building and make it more conducive to the staff that we have now. Because my administrative assistant is working in a closet, literally. That was a storage closet, and that's now her office. And the detectives area was a conference room, and we got 4 detectives squeezed into that little area. So a little more elbow room. I think when we built that building, we had 18 officers, and now we have 31. So clearly, we've almost doubled in that time.
You want to keep the wood paneling?
So we can get rid of that. It might come back in style. Who knows? So anyhow, that's all I have. Unless anybody had any questions.
I would really a facility study for that building. Chuck and I have been working on assembling a decision package for outfitting the EOC space post fire's new building. So it's very, we're trying to do the best we can do with a guesstimate of, hey, if we're in a space this size and we know we need these types of pieces, we're kind of taking our best stab at it, but really do it the right way and invest the right amount of funds, not have to do it again or alter what we have. I think it's best for everybody.
Where are you working now?
What's up?
Where are you working upstairs with Chuck? Where is your office at now?
Well, my office is here,
Okay.
but the EOC is that training room.
Right.
Yep.
Are you moving to the new building or staying here?
Holding him hostage.
Anyone else for the good of the order?
So if I could just follow up on the grants and generator piece. So FEMA opened up some hazard mitigation funding opportunities following presidentially declared disasters that happened here in Washington over the last 8 months roughly. And so we submitted an interest letter in potentially looking at applying for a backup generator for this facility. So as one of the critical facilities for the city, on my very first day, I was working with Ryan trying to get caught up on tell me all about the city, and the power went out. So
It can't be that critical. People weren't here for two years.
Just a green box over there gets it all the time,
Yeah.
So,
we just put up a couple $100 bollards in front of the A&P, and we'd never have a power outage.
right? So We did submit that for both of the funding opportunities because it's eligible under both. And so it'll be a few months before we hear find out if we're going to be invited to actually submit a full application. But just sharing that for good of the order here that it's an opportunity to pursue the funding and it's a need. So we're striking.
Good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we're not applying for $5 million worth of grants a year, I don't know if we're doing our job for the people. All right. Then I will say this meeting is adjourned. We'll see you back here in 35 minutes.